Hi, I'm Michelle Phillips, beauty and wellness expert and host of this incredibly powerful workshop, The Hormone Balance Fix with Dr. César A, who is a board-certified physician specializing in bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and weight loss. Dr. Lara has been practicing medicine for over 30 years, and you may have seen him on TV, you may have read one of his many articles, as he is a leading authority in all topics related to health and wellness. Dr. Lara is a true healer. I know this firsthand working with him. He is so gifted with an ability to connect with his patients on a deeper level and really understand the root cause of their problems. With 2 practices located in Tampa Bay, Dr. Lara has helped transform thousands of patients through his award-winning weight loss and bioidentical hormone programs. Today, Dr. Lara is going to dive into one of the most transformative topics for women, navigating menopause. During this webinar, I encourage you to turn off any distractions, and you may even want to take some notes because this information can completely transform your health and your energy levels. And at the end of this session, I'll also be sharing a very special offer that Dr. Lara is bringing you today. This webinar is for you if you are tired of the countless remedies for menopause, you're tired of feeling emotionally drained and physically out of balance, and are ready for a proven, personalized solution. We encourage you to post your questions in the comments section during the webinar, even if you're watching this on replay, because we will go back and answer those questions for you. Are you ready to get started? I know I am, because this program has transformed my life. It's time to bring in the incredible Dr. Lara, who is about to share some powerful information to help you get your hormones back in balance so you can start feeling great and improve your overall health. Oh, welcome, Dr. Lara. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you. It feels fantastic to be here. So wonderful of your beautiful studio. It's amazing to see.
Oh.
I'm blessed to be here. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. And I mirror that back to you. In fact, we met many years ago, Dr. Lara and I, when you were a frequent guest on a morning talk show in Tampa on CBS, and I was hosting the show at the time. I was just so drawn to you and your messaging and your practice, your holistic approach for medicine. Your background as a physician, I just feel it is so wonderful that you are not only helping people heal their bodies, you're helping people heal their minds. There are so many things that I've learned from you and that I practice in my life now that makes such a huge difference in how I treat my body, how I take care of myself, and how I feel about myself. And I think that's what's so amazing about what you do. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Those are beautiful words. And yes, I think in general, we tend to give our power away, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't realize how amazingly miraculous this physical body is. And more often than not, a lot of the challenges that we face in life is because we give our power away to the external forces. And to a large extent, in the Western methodology or the Western system of medications and of therapy, it's pretty much a Band-Aid approach to symptomatology, not really getting to the root of the problems. And so from my humble perspective, I try to appreciate the beautiful, miraculous body that we were gifted in this beautiful journey at this lifetime, and recognize that in order for that, this indeed is our temple, right? And so we need to honor it, we need to treat it, we need to give it love, and love heals everything. And unfortunately, when we give our power away, we end up creating fear, we end up creating frustrations, we end up sometimes feeling like we become victims of circumstances and we need somebody from the outside to fix us, when in reality we have the ability to actually help our body balance and begin to recognize that our body has the immense wisdom to be able to heal itself if we just give it what it needs.
Absolutely. And I think for many of us on that health journey, I don't know if this is correct, but this is an assumption I have. Most of the people that I interact with, and I work a lot with women, helping with their, beauty and wellness and life coaching. After we have kids and we start hitting that perimenopausal stage of our life, we start developing these symptoms, whether it be foggy brain, unable to sleep properly, hot flashes, mood swings, things that are just going on in our bodies. And sometimes, like for me, I didn't even realize that it was perimenopause because I was like late 30s, early 40s. I went to a doctor who sent me on antidepressants and sleeping pills. And I was a mom of 3 little kids, and I was just like, this is not helping. This is making me feel worse. I love how you come from a holistic approach, and it's not just mindset, but you also are very naturally based. And I think a lot of people feel that bioidentical hormones are a bad thing, and they're not. They're more of a natural way to treat these symptoms, but also help our health entirely. So I would love for you to share, what you teach when it comes to bioidentical hormones and how you work with your patients.
To give you a little perspective, so my journey into the understanding of bioidentical hormones came from my own experience, but more importantly, it was from the experience that my wife, Penelope, was undergoing, because even though we're both the same age, she started having the perimenopause symptomatology. And then that stimulated me to want to look into that. And up until that point, I had been more traditionally trained. But the interesting part about that traditionally training is that back in the day, when I was a resident and when I first became a medical doctor, it was the standard of care for all females that turned 40, 45, and were going through the perimenopause or menopause for them to be put on hormone replacement. And that was basically evidence-based. So we knew even back then that a woman needed estrogen if you wanted to have good, strong bones. You needed to have estrogen in order for you to have a good, strong heart. And you needed estrogen to be able to decrease the risks of you developing dementia. And so many women then, and I remember as a resident and coming out of residency and starting to work with women, the primary medications that we were giving them were Premarin, which was a type of a estrogen, and Provera, which was a type of at those days, it was taught to us that it was a progesterone, but it really was not a progesterone. It's a progestin, which is a very different molecule. And then somewhere in that experience, probably some 20 years ago, all of a sudden there was a multi-center study with over 50,000 women. It was called the Women's Health Initiative Study. And in that Women's Health Initiative Study, all of a sudden the data started showing that the women that were taking this Premarin and this Provera were actually having more heart attacks, more breast cancer, and having more significant problems with their health, having strokes. And so all of a sudden, the pendulum in the Western model of therapy went from being pro-hormone to being anti-hormone. So this is where the interesting part begins to flourish. And that is that the data has now clearly shown that it was the synthetic aspects of those medications that are the cause of the problem. Because Premarin is actually comes from the mare of or horses, and it's actually comes from the urine. And so 80% of what's in that molecule of Premarin is actually horse-related stuff. And yet women were taking it because they had 20% of estradiol. And then the Provera was actually the pharmaceutical industry's answer to a woman's need for progesterone. But because progesterone occurs naturally in a woman, they could not patent it. And so there was no money in it. So then they tweaked it, called it Provera. And guess what? The Provera has been one of the primary medications that has caused strokes, breast cancers, and all the things that you hear that are horrible stories. And so now we have been able to have more clarity, but still the traditionalist type of physician many times still poo-poos on the idea of bioidentical hormone replacement because they don't really understand the difference, and they haven't cut themselves up with the data that basically supports the fact that they're totally different. A bioidentical hormone replacement is really what that means. When something is bioidentical, it means that the structure and function of what you're taking is identical to the structure and function of what your body produces naturally. And so even if it is made in a laboratory, even if it's made in a pharmaceutical type of setting, which many times they're compounding pharmacies, what it brings attention to is that it is actually structurally and chemically and functionality identical to what your body produces. And so that's a bioidentical hormone replacement. And so in today's therapy, we actually give progesterone, we actually give estradiol, but these are bioidentical types of formulations. They're not the synthetic, which is where the problems eventually were subsequently found.
A lot of my friends are afraid because they've been told bioidentical hormones can cause strokes or cancer. And so that is not the truth, correct?
That's not the truth. So, and what happens is that the physicians who say that to our patients are well-meaning doctors, because in other words, it's not like they know something and they don't want to tell you, they're well-meaning. They go to the conferences to get their continual education, and they hear from the experts, which are literally being paid by the pharmaceutical industry to continue to do the studies, that this is not a good therapy. What they're confusing is bioidentical hormones are different than synthetic hormones. And because they don't see that difference, and we have been, unfortunately, indoctrinated since the days of the Rockefeller, when Rockefeller realized that the World War was ending. And so we had all this petroleum, and he realized that, hey, we can make medications out of petroleum. So they started basically supporting the medical schools. And then the medical schools began to call anybody that used natural therapies as being whacks or being people that didn't. And so all of a sudden we went to a purely pharmaceutical oriented therapeutic Western model of medicine, which basically poo-poos on anything that the pharmaceutical industry doesn't have their hands on, right? And so that's by design, because it was driven by profits. It was driven by opportunities. And so if you take a look today at our medical schools, how many of them are doing studies on vitamin C? How many of them are doing studies on vitamin D? They're doing studies on all these chemicals and all these different compositions, because the money is in patents. And if you can patent something and then you can go ahead and sell it to the masses, how much and you hear this all the time. You can go get a blood pressure pill here that will cost you $100, but in Europe it costs you 20 cents or $2. I shouldn't say 20 cents, but it's basically because we live in a Western model of therapy. So bioidentical hormones are indeed different, and your body produces hormones naturally, but there comes a time when it begins to decrease the production of those hormones. When those hormones are no longer there, a man or a woman will begin to have all kinds of dysfunctionalities in multiple systems.
Right. It's not just women, it's men too.
Absolutely. And so in the woman, obviously their ability to remember begins affected. So they begin to have more problems with the remembrance. They begin to have more emotional reactivity. Their energy levels begin to decrease. Their belly fat begins to increase. All of a sudden, they never had cholesterol problems. Now they got a cholesterol problem. All of a sudden, they never had palpitations. Now they go see a cardiologist who then begins to do the workup or begins to give them medicine, when in reality, all they really needed was a little support with the hormones that they no longer can make naturally. And if we can give a woman or a man what the body needs to function optimally, then the body is going to balance and begin to live optimally. And so from my perspective, and those individuals who have had advanced education in bioidentical hormones, we tend to look at bioidentical hormones as something that you will support you to the end of your life. In other words, when you're 103, you're still taking bioidentical hormones. Why? Because you don't want to feel like your typical 103-year-old that is basically in a bed hoping somebody could feed them. You want to be able to be 103 and go outside and be able to take your walks and be able to feed yourself, and God willing, be able to have intimacy with the love of your life, right? And so that is still something that is there for us to look at as an option in terms of our ability to age in a more youthful way.
How I understand it, I could be wrong without going into too much detail, but when we're of childbearing age, where our hormones are good and we're fine, and then as we get older, it's like the body was designed to, okay, you're not creating babies anymore, so now you're just designed to kind of wither away as your hormones wither away. The bioidentical hormones are not just to alleviate all these symptoms of fatigue and brain fog and the moodiness and hot flashes. It also strengthens our organs, our bones, our brain health. I mean, talk about that part of it. To me, was the reason that I really wanted to make sure it was on bioidentical hormones.
All of those things that you mentioned are definitely right on. And brain health is such an important part of it, because if we lose our ability to remember, if we lose our ability to be able to comprehend, if we lose our ability to be able to communicate, if we basically are at the mercy of what reactions we have to an external world, and we can no longer be internally driven, then obviously we're going to be at the mercy of whatever happens to us. And I think, indeed, one of the primary challenges that a lot of females who receive from their primary care doctors, or many times their gynecologist or their advisors in the Western model of health, is that if you take estradiol, estrogen, you're going to get breast cancer. Okay. And so imagine that. I can't sleep at night. I'm having all kinds of hot flashes. I'm gaining weight. I'm not sleeping. And the answer to that is, here, let me put you on an antidepressant, just like you expressed it. But if estrogen was really that horrible molecule, then women in their mid-20s and mid-30s will be having horrible breast cancer, because at that stage of our life, of a woman's life, she's producing excellent amounts of estrogen. I'm talking 300, 400, 500 in terms of a blood test. Okay. When you end up no longer producing estrogen and your levels are literally less than 15 or literally zero, okay, you're now all of a sudden your skin begins to lose elasticity. You begin to develop belly fat. You begin to lose muscle quickly, and your brain is no longer functioning, and your heart arteries begin to harden, and you begin to have a weakening of the muscle in your heart. And so all of a sudden you need medications for blood pressure. You need medications for cholesterol. So the doctors will give you cholesterol medicine, or the famous statins, left and right. As soon as your cholesterol is over 200, oh, you better take this. Did you know, if you take a look at the PDR, that the actual statins have a higher risk of giving you breast cancer than estrogen?
I was just going to say, all the side effects from all of these pharmaceutical drugs are terrible.
Yes.
I mean, my grandmother actually had some extremely scary things happen because she was on so many different medications from several different doctors as she was aging, which probably a lot of it could have been avoided.
And again, those doctors mean well, right?
Yes.
That because the neurologist was giving her something for the brain.
Yep.
The cardiologist was giving something for the heart. Their gastroenterologist was giving something for the stomach, but nobody was looking at the totality of what she was taking, how she was taking, and what secondary effects they were having. And remember, these things are not natural. In other words, most of the medicines that you take, like a statin, there is no such a thing as a deficiency in statins in somebody. We were not born with statins. So that's an external molecule.
Right.
So if you're going to take it, it's best if you begin to change your lifestyle and do things that are more natural to achieve the same results or even better results, and not have to put yourself into a position where you're going to forget what your name is, because that's a foggy brain. It's a very common side effect of statins.
I do love the fact that you not only are helping people with balancing their hormones, but you're looking at their life and their health holistically, helping people alleviate stress in their lives, teaching them how to let go of things that aren't serving them, how to change their belief systems, which is so important because no matter how much we try to improve our health, if our minds are not in alignment, then it can go against us, right?
Absolutely. And it's very easy to recognize that. How many people do you know who maybe turn 50 and all of a sudden you say, why don't you, their expectations that they have with that number suddenly changes. Oh, I'm 50 years of age. I can no longer do that. I got a knee issue. I got a back issue. I got this, I got that. And so what happens in that belief system, which is so critical, is that we have been indoctrinated by the systems that we live around, to the fact that when we get to 60, 70 years of age, we're going to be seeing a doctor every 3 months. We're going to be on blood pressure pills. We're going to be on cholesterol pills, and we might be on a dementia preventing or dementia treating medication. And so basically, if you look at some of the statistics, we actually spend significant amounts of our health budget in the last 6 months of our lives. Why? Because people are being dumped all kinds of things just to keep them breathing, but they no longer have that quality of life. So a simple perspective or philosophy is to intentionalize that we want our lifespan to be equal to our ability to have that healthiness, right? So let our lifespan equal our healthy span just as well, because we don't want to just be kept alive,
right,
if we don't really have the quality of life that we want. And so in bioidentical hormones, that's exactly what we're doing. What we recognize is if somebody comes in with 50 pounds of excess weight and has no energy and has low testosterone, of course, that person will benefit from testosterone support. And that's going to make a huge impact in helping them optimize their brain power so that maybe they can get up and begin to exercise. But it's not going to drop those 50 pounds just because you went on testosterone. But testosterone will be part of the answer. But the largest part of the answer comes in that individual's ability to change their lifestyle and begin to shift what they're eating, how they're sleeping. If they're having 2 cocktails at night so they can go to sleep, well, that's going to basically affect your brain. If you're watching TV or watching your social media as you go to bed, that's all that blue light is affecting your brain. And so there's so many factors to it, but definitely the bioidentical hormone replacement is in the middle of being able to help us balance, because even if we decrease all those other areas and we're eating better, we're exercising, we're doing all the right things, with our hormones, we got no energy, we got the belly fat, our libido has decreased. And libido is a quality of life issue, right? In other words, it doesn't cost you anything to have intimacy with your loved one. Right?
Exactly.
But it makes you feel wonderful because you release all those endorphins that help you decrease inflammation, that help you become more creative. It's opening up other aspects of our lives that make us feel balanced and optimized. And so I think it's important for us to recognize that bioidentical hormones are definitely at the heart of our aging protocols in terms of being able to maintain our youthfulness as we age. But that by itself is not the total answer.
Right.
If you mix that with lifestyle modification, getting a good sleep, drinking your fluids, meditating or praying every day, then of course you're going to be able to have significant shifts in your mindset and what we think we become. And so if we think that, I'm 65 years of age, I'm good with not having energy because I'm 65. Oh, I got this knee that is messed up. I'm probably going to have the other knee in another couple of years, and nothing's changing. You are literally creating the plan of your life, which you already believe is going to happen.
Right.
But if you say, you know what, I got to do something for this other knee that is still good. Let me see what I can do. Maybe I can drop 15 pounds. Maybe I can go in an anti-inflammatory nutritional plan. Maybe I can build my muscles. Maybe I can put a little testosterone. Maybe I can go on estrogen. In other words, there's all these other parameters that help us become healthy so that we can change the statistical analysis, right? Because right now, if you get to be 80 years of age, statistically speaking, 50% of our population will not know their name. That's how
Wow.
big dementia has become.
Wow. And bioidentical hormones helps prevent that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's so mind-blowing that, we are just kind of a sick care society instead of a wellness care, right? To preventative. When you were talking about the 65-year-old who has all these different ailments, it's a lot of times I feel that we don't realize how crappy we feel or our life is until we actually make the changes and we think, okay, wow, why didn't I do this sooner? And the nice thing about your programs is it doesn't have to be difficult. It's very simple.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people are afraid of change, but it's not like this drastic, boom, you're on this restrictive diet and you have to change all these things. The change that you're talking about are subtle things. That's what you're talking
and indeed,
about.
I mean, pleasure is a major part of being alive. I mean,
Right.
we got all these beautiful things all around us, and we tend to enjoy them and appreciate them. So it's not about not having pleasure or not having joy. It's
Right.
about being able to shift your abilities to be able to enjoy things a little bit differently,
Yes.
And I think in females, of course, we're looking at estrogen, which is a primary. So typically, the way that it would go for a female is when she's in the perimenopause, she no longer produces progesterone. Now, progesterone is a critically important hormone because that's really the partner of estrogen.
Right.
So estrogen and progesterone are together. And when they are together, they give you optimal abilities to be healthy. When your progesterone begins to decrease, now it's not uncommon that females after menopause is when they start having the breast cancer. It's not because they're not producing a lots of estrogen, it's because they no longer have the progesterone. So if you tend to look at because this is the fear for most women. Oh my God, I'm going to get breast cancer.
Oh, yeah.
But it's actually in the postmenopausal state where more women at the age of 50, 55, 60 will be diagnosed. Of course, we have a 40-year-old or 35 or sometimes even a 20-year-old that may develop breast cancer, but those are outliers. I think in general, you tend to see breast cancer being something that happens between 50 and 60 years of age for the majority of people or older. And most of those individuals, they're not on bioidentical hormones. It's just the progesterone decrease. Once the progesterone decreases, especially if that individual has 20 pounds of excess weight, that individual is producing significant amounts of estrogen without the accompanying progesterone. So that imbalance begins to create a dysfunctionality. So progesterone is critically important. And unfortunately, in a lot of the traditionalist doctors, if you had a hysterectomy, you don't need progesterone because the progesterone was only good for giving you periods. They could not be more wrong about that.
Right.
But because the progesterone was not made just to have a period. It was made to actually support life. Remember, if a woman is unable to get pregnant, many times she ends up being given progesterone to be able to maintain that fetus past the 3 months. After 3 months, the placenta takes over and begins to produce good amounts of progesterone. So the progesterone is a life-giving hormone for us to have healthy babies. So progesterone is critically important for our mindset, our ability to sleep well, our ability to regenerate our brain, and our ability to regenerate our body. The estradiol becomes critically important for giving us cardiovascular, of course, mental, skin, bone, so many different systems. So progesterone and estrogen are critically important, but they need to be used in combination to be able to get optimal benefits. Both males and females, both are in need of testosterone. Testosterone is this other wonderful hormone that literally helps optimize your lean body mass. So what happens as we age? We lose our lean body mass and we develop a gut, right? And the gut is reflective of the imbalance that is occurring in our body. In males, they have a hard time having adequate erections or maintaining adequate erections or just losing their overall appetite for intimacy. In a female, She ends up losing her ability to achieve adequate orgasms. She loses her ability to have hunger for intimacy. And most of the time, she ends up beginning to avoid it. Or if she ends up experiencing it, is mostly for the benefit of pleasing her partner because she no longer feels the benefit. So that's at the level of intimacy and our energy levels, because sexuality is a profound opportunity for our bodies to have this energy that makes us want to do things. In the old wisdom traditions, they call it the kundalini energy, which is this fire essence that lives inside of us. And in the appropriate circumstances, you can awaken that through that intimate experience. And so it is that vital energy of intimacy that is not so much important in terms of being able to express it, because there's many times in a life that many people will commit themselves to be celibate. So it's not the fact that you have to express it, but it's without the adequate amount of testosterone. Even if you wanted to express it, you can not.
Right.
And the problem is that that vital energy is necessary for lean body mass, for improving our cardiovascular function, because the heart is a muscle. So just like it helps maintain our lean body mass, it helps maintain our cardiovascular muscularity. It helps optimize our brain function. One of the simple ways that I often tell a male or a female who's low on testosterone, about to start it on testosterone, I say to them, you're going to get your tiger back.
Yeah.
Because your tiger's been asleep. And so it's really about just understanding how these things work also together. So if I just give somebody testosterone, a female, but no estrogen and no progesterone, then I'm not getting the benefits. And then there's these other hormones that many people do not know about. Vitamin D. Vitamin D is more of a hormone than it is a vitamin. DHEA, that's an extremely important hormone that helps us decrease inflammation in our body. And that's also something that we produce. But if we're under a lot of stress, our adrenal glands eat it up. And so we don't have that much. So in people under a lot of stress, they're in more need of DHEA. Pregnenolone, she's considered to be the grandmother of all hormones. And the reason for that is because biochemically, she's made up of a complete set of molecules that all the other hormones can become from her. So she's considered the grandmother of hormones, and she does her work at the level of the brain, helping us remember, helping us connect the dots a little more effectively. And the last one that it needs to also be brought into attention is the thyroid. The thyroid is the traffic cop of our metabolism. It connects all the dots for us. So if somebody has a low working thyroid, they're going to be slow, they're going to be lethargic, they're going to have no energy. Many times they're constipated, many times dry skin, their hair begins to fall. If you go to your primary care doctor and you're from here to here, somewhere in that range, he'll say, or she'll say, you're in the range, you're okay. But they're not looking is, where are you in the range? And that's the importance of functional medicine. Functional medicine brings attention not just to whether you're in the norm or not, but where are you in the norm, and what symptoms are you having, to see if it would make sense to forget the range and begin to adjust it within the range so that you can have optimal experiences. And so often 55-year-olds will come in with high cholesterols, blood pressure issues. We put them on bioidentical hormone optimization, both males and females. All of a sudden, after being on thyroid, testosterone, and all the other hormones, especially in females, their cholesterol begins to drop. Their blood pressure is no longer there. In many women, the reason they were having palpitations when they were in the perimenopause was because of this symptomatology. You give them a little bit of estrogen or progesterone and estrogen, and suddenly the palpitations are gone because they no longer feel that sense of anxiety and that sense of withdrawal from those hormones. So it's a miraculous therapies, and they're so simple, but they need to be patient specific.
Right, because that's the thing. You're very, very hands-on in making sure that each patient has a protocol just for their physical body as well as where they're at in their life. I mean, everything is considered when you're working with a client, which is so important. And you track everything. you're taking blood tests, you're actually doing full physical exams, and you're now doing telehealth as well. But you
Yes.
can do those exams with your regular doctor
Yes.
before working with you, and we'll get to that as well. But I also want to talk about something unique that you are very, very passionate about, and that is that you really only use the bioidentical hormone replacement therapy in the form of creams
Yes.
or oral
Yes.
medication. Can you talk about that? Because a lot of people I know are doing the pellets.
Yes.
Which is they're little pellets that are inserted in your bottom area underneath the skin every, 3 or 4 months?
Every 3 to 4 months. The unfortunate thing about a pellet is that it will be sold to our communities or our patients as, oh, you don't have to remember to take anything. We just kind of put this little pellet in your buttock every 3 to 4 months, and it works great, and you're going to like it, and it was wonderful. So most of those pellets are made up of testosterone and estrogen. Those are the two primary hormones that are put in there. Many times they're not getting the progesterone at all. And in some cases, they are getting the progesterone, but the pellet itself is made up of estrogen and testosterone. And so what ends up happening is once you insert that pellet, you're stuck with that pellet. Okay. So what happens if you didn't notice any difference? You're still feeling horrible. Well, you have to wait 3 months, and then we try a bigger size pellet. What happens if your body's super sensitive and all of a sudden you're feeling horrible? Because if you take too much testosterone, you're going to feel anxious, you're going to feel aggressive, you're going to feel like you have no patience. And sometimes the ability to wake up your sexual appetite is a good thing. But imagine if you were hungry every day, the whole day, and you couldn't get enough of it. It becomes also an obsessive compulsive perspective.
Right.
And so too much of anything is not good. And with the pellets, you have no way of being able to make adjustments on the go. And then the other part of it is that for me, it's an invasive procedure that somebody needs to insert that pellet. So often enough, you're going to have redness. You're going to have inflammation. Sometimes the body doesn't like it and it's going to spit it out, and you're going to have all kinds of scarring. And imagine having to do that every 3 months for the rest of your life. What is your butt going to look like, number one? And number two, for me, it's just a barbaric approach to a woman's natural need for hormones. And so, of course, you can also inject testosterone. In a lot of males, they go to their urologist and they get the injectable testosterone, and it works well for them. But a male may need to inject himself once or twice a week, and they learn how to do it themselves. But again, it's invasive. In the approach that I have, we use compounded creams that are compounded, are compounding pharmacies. And so the testosterone comes in a cream, and it's a cream that is utilized very effectively and very efficiently once a day. The estrogen typically comes in oral tablets or capsules. The progesterone is a capsule. The testosterone, if you don't like the creams in females, we can switch it for an oral testosterone, because females generally do not need that much testosterone. What I mean by that is that a typical female may need 5 to 10, maybe in some females, 50 milligrams of testosterone, but the majority are between 5 and 50. And so you can actually have a compounded pharmaceutical capsule with testosterone, and the female can take that and not have to deal with creams. But the majority of females like the creams because they get so many other benefits by utilizing a cream. The key to the success of this is that once you get through the process of learning how to use it, and if for some reason you had a problem, you can call me and I would just say, stop this, add this, take 2 of these and cut these in half. In other words, we can change the therapy on the go. With testosterone, you start with 1 pump every day. If for some reason it's not working, we can go to 2 pumps. Eventually, we can reformulate that so that it's a little more concentrated cream, and you go back to 1 pump. If for some reason it backfired on you and it's too much, you can just cut back to just a half a pump a day or half a pump every other day. So it's really able to be moderated in a very personalized, on-the-go perspective, rather than to feel like you're stuck and you got nowhere to go. And all you need to do is just wait and hope that time will pass so that you can get eventually an opportunity to try it again and hope that the next time it works. For me,
Yeah.
it's too much to do that.
Yeah, and we know our bodies, right? I mean, you listen to your body and you think, oh, I feel better and I'm doing well. And then maybe you've got, okay, something's going on with my body where I've noticed going from perimenopause to menopause to where all of a sudden I think, oh, what's different now? Well, I'm headed more into menopause now. Didn't
Yeah.
really know it because I didn't have many symptoms during perimenopause because I'm
Yes.
on bioidenticals. But now I need more estrogen because my estrogen levels are
Dropped.
going down. So
Yes.
there's things that you start to notice in your body changing that I feel you have more control over if you're using the creams as opposed to the pellets. Whereas with the pellets, you're just like, why am I not feeling well? Or why am I feeling too stimulated? Or,
And I would say that if you start 10 people on pellets, 5 of them are going to have problems. Some 5 are going to be lucky for a little while, but then you're not going to be able to sustain that luckiness for an indefinite period of time because our body continues to change.
Right.
And you're always going to be stuck with something that you're going to have to wait till the next 3 months to see what works or doesn't work. It's actually a compounded type of a cream, and in the males they will actually apply it on their testes. Okay. Now, if you think about that, where is testosterone made in the males? The testes.
Right.
Okay. The delivery system for testosterone already exists. So if we apply it on the testes, of course, it's not going to burn you. It's not going to create, because it doesn't have any alcohol. So these are compounded creams. So that's a simple way for males. 1 pump a day, apply it into the scrotum, rub it really nicely for about 15 seconds so that it kind of dries up. And then over the next 5 hours, your body just kind of like a vacuum. And then it already has the natural God-given delivery system that you were born with that basically delivers it to every single cell in your body.
Yeah, through your bloodstream. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, you know that males and females were kind of the same, right? And so the same thing applies for females. So the cream is actually applied every morning or every evening, depending on your lifestyle. And I usually get an understanding of that when I talk to you. It will be applied a little pump right in the genitalia, outer lips of the vagina, right in that skin that is right next to it. That's where you will apply it. Now, the womb is a life-given organ. And so the blood supply is immense. So when you apply that cream there, it goes just like in the scrotum in males. It immediately affects all of the genitalia. So a woman will get immediate improvement in the lubrication. They will begin to have an improvement because it's bathing those tissues first. So they're going to get an improvement in their strength of the muscularity inside their intravaginal canal, which is what's responsible to giving you that wonderful climax or orgasm. So all of a sudden, women begin to have more intense orgasms because of the application process. And more importantly, it has a delivery system that goes to every single cell in your body, including the brain. So we get great results with minimal issues. And again, it can be shifted. But for some women, if they have still children at home or different circumstances and they don't want to apply the cream, then we switch it to an oral capsule. For men, we don't have that because, as I said, a woman will use anywhere as an average from 5 to 50. Male starts at 100 to 200 and goes up to 400 or more. So there's not a big enough horse capsule to be able to take that.
If someone comes to you and says, okay, I want to get checked for my hormones, what's the process?
So typically we have a comprehensive evaluation that we do in terms of understanding your history and making sure that we understand who you are medically, what medications you're taking. So a good thorough history. There's always an examination whenever we see you, or we recommend that you get that with your own doctor if for some reason you don't have access to us. And then we normally do a blood test. And then a week later, we review that blood test with you so that, again, the intention is not for me to fix you. The intention is for me to educate you on your own body and bring the science to you so that we can become partners in helping you achieve the best that you could be. And so in the second visit, there's an education where we go over the blood test so you understand where you're at. And at that point, I'm also going to tell you evidence-based perspectives of where ideally the science tells us that you need to be to decrease dementia, to optimize cardiovascular, to decrease osteoporosis, all those parameters, because it's a two-faceted approach. Number one, most people that are coming, they want to feel better.
Right.
So the first thing is quality of life. But the second thing is how can we prevent the conditions of aging? And so we normally achieve that within typically 3 months. Many females feel better after a week or two. Okay. But normally by 3 months. So normally we educate you on the first and the second visit, which is a week after you had the blood test, and we initiate therapy. Then I do what I call my running start, right? So I don't want to wait 3 months for you to tell me I didn't feel any difference.
Right.
I want to know at 6 weeks of you being on the therapy, how you feel, so that then I can tweak things to get you in what I call the therapeutic zone of optimization. And at that point, we begin every 3 months a blood test, followed up with a visit either over the phone or through the internet or in the office. And then every 3 months, and we kind of have a review of how things are going, how you feel. We make little adjustments and we continue to do so. After a while, if somebody's been doing good for a couple of years, I haven't had to change their therapy for some time, we can go to every 4 to 6 months for the blood test so we can begin to kind of let your body guide us to what it needs.
I love it. It's a holistic approach, and it's amazing the difference that you feel after you are on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, as well as the nutritional advice that you offer, as well as the mindset, the therapies that you offer and support. I mentioned this before, but I know you have a free mantra download, which is so wonderful to help kind of reprogram yourself to think more positive and to really help yourself heal mentally as well as physically. It's incredible. And I suggest everyone downloads that. I will include the links to Dr. Laura's website as well as to the free mantra download for everyone to enjoy. And I know you offer recipes on your website for healthy eating, and you have so many great resources for people, because what I want everybody to know is that this man is all about education and inspiring and empowering people. You're not someone that's just trying to shove treatments down people's throats. If someone would rather go in baby steps, that's how you are. You meet people where they are and you help guide them continuously. So I'm so grateful to be able to work with you and learn from you. It's been amazing. Thank you.
Well, from the days of when I was a traditionalist family doctor, I quickly learned that miracles are possible. Yeah. And I've seen so many of my patients have miracles in their lives, and I have had miracles happen in my life. And understanding that depth of how miracles can happen, I feel that my calling is to guide others to create their own miracles in their life.
I love that. You make me cry. Thank you so much, Dr. Lara, for your time today. Such great wisdom. And I look forward to many, many more possibilities of us sitting down together like this so I can continuously pick your brain and share with everyone else.
Thank you. Thank you. And blessings to all. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here. Balancing your hormones is the foundation of good health. Without it, any diet, exercise, or supplement plan is just a temporary fix. When your hormones are balanced, your body works for you, not against you. And so for those of you who are ready to take action, Dr. Lara is offering a free consultation and assessment, which is normally $50, as well as a bonus guide on how to optimize your nutrition and lifestyle for hormonal balance. Dr. Lara wants to help you understand more about balancing your hormones and how a personalized plan can transform your life. Balancing your hormones is the key to unlocking your health and happiness during menopause and beyond. So if you're ready to take that next step, head to the link and start your journey now. And remember, this offer is only available for a limited time, so take advantage while you can.